My next guest is a sales trainer and consultant, author of Selling Through Partnering Skills. He believes that people can get better through learning and sharing, and that with better collaboration, we can really make a difference. So welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast, Fred Copestake.
Brilliant. No, thank you, Janice. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's good to have you here because literally I finished your book. See, I've still got all my post-it notes in there. I finished my book on Sunday, so we'll talk all about that because there's the reason why I got your book, because there's a lot of areas that I've been thinking about. I've got about 2 manuscripts, and then when I saw your title, I thought, oh, this is it. Let me find out, more about it. And I really love what you've done with it. But first of all, we're literally today, our anniversary of going into lockdown. Whee!
Yeah.
Again.
Again,
So it'd be
yeah.
interesting to find out, what adaptations you've had to make to your business. Obviously, we're all virtual and online, but like there may be other adaptations that you didn't anticipate, but also in terms of the clients that you work with, what have been the more unusual thing, more than just everyone's gone virtual?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a big adaptation. I would probably be traveling at least once a month. So all my air miles are now gone. But yeah, so we've had to work virtual, have to sort of deliver, because I deliver a lot of training myself, and that's all kind of gone virtual. So that's a change in how we deliver things,
Mm.
and that's a big change. It's not just taking, oh, did that in the classroom, let's do that on screen. It changes the whole way you do things. But for me, where it's allowed me to adapt and really do things I think do make a difference is that I think we can design more elegant training solutions. I think because of the traveling and because the people I'd be training would often travel as well, we'd put a lot of content into 3 days together, which is great because then you can cover a lot of stuff. But sometimes I was always wondering, is this too much? I'm wondering whether we're filling people up too much. They can't really take the stuff away and apply it. And so by cutting down the training into sort of smaller chunks, so 2-3 hours of the instruction part, if you like, still very interactive, that people then take away and apply, along with a very short coaching session, one-to-one basis. Actually, we can sort of extend the training, but it's getting the stuff done in between that is going to drive the results. And I think we're getting results faster actually by making the training longer.
That's interesting because there is all of the stats on how much you remember from the training 1 week, 1 month, 6 months afterwards, and it's diminishing returns. And it's in the application, in the practice, in the doing, that we really kind of work the muscle and work the muscle memory, that we actually remember and start to change behaviors, because it's not really about getting knowledge in your head, it's about changing behaviors. So it's interesting, point that you make about online training and the way it's broken up now.
Yeah, and funny enough, sort of thinking about training and how we're designing and changing things, I was talking to somebody the other day about gamification, and they were getting incredibly excited about it. And I think my face must be a book sometimes, because I was probably looking a bit nonplussed and not that bothered. He said, "You don't seem really excited about gamifying. You can put it in your training." I said, "Well, why would I want to do that?" He said, "Well, you say old-fashioned." I said, "No, I'm all about realification. It's here is something, go away and do it in real life, real customer, real opportunity, and you're going to get real money at the end of it."
Yeah.
And I think then the penny dropped. They went, "Yeah, okay." To be fair, they were coming from a different angle, and they were talking about a different subject completely. But sort of for our world, for sales,
Yeah.
it's do the stuff in real life. That is what's going to give you the results.
Yeah.
Otherwise, as you've said, it's just nice knowledge. Oh, I know things. Well, great. We need you to do things.
Yeah. I mean, unless you use the knowledge, it's just a bit redundant, really, isn't it? And things move so quickly and become out of date so quickly. So you've got to have a learning practice, haven't you? You've got to kind of constantly be evolving and learning practice. That's what the word is. You've got to practice it.
It is, and when we get into practice, I'm sure you've had these discussions, it's deliberate practice. So you either do it in real life, or if you think, well, that's a little bit frightening, I just need to get better at it. It's like a sports team trying a new move or something like that. Okay, well, let's practice it, but we're deliberately practicing that thing. We're not kicking the ball or throwing the ball around for fun. We're doing that very specific thing that we're trying to get better at to actually, yes, we know how to do it now. Now let's put it into the game plan we're using on match day, if you like. So yeah,
So,
practice isn't just messing about.
so what have you seen? The one thing that keeps coming up that salespeople do that is really, really bad practice, that you're having to
Talk over people and not listen to what they're saying. Sorry. Sorry, I couldn't resist that.
Well, you did say put it into practice, didn't you?
Exactly. I like to illustrate my learning points. Sorry, I've been rude.
Is that it?
No, it absolutely is. We can talk about all sorts of sort of new and sophisticated and exciting ways of working in sales, which are very, very valid. But at the end of the day, if a salesperson is involved, it's because we need that human interaction piece. So if we want to get really good at that, it's that skill in listening and letting people finish, really understanding what they're saying, and then prompting that by asking good questions. And I think still that's one of the fundamentals of selling, but still probably the one that a lot of people still don't do very well.
Yeah.
And whether it's sort of, okay, I use a silly example there where I talked over you, but actually you still hear people, see people do that. Or the next sort of level of that is they have asked a question, they have listened. Right, I've done that. Now I'm going to talk about me. People tend not to ask enough questions and really dig down and understand and help somebody to think by asking questions. So I might ask questions not because I necessarily need the information. Yes, it's good for me because I can use it to build the solution. But actually by asking you stuff that you then start to think about and open your mind, that's really valuable. That's what salespeople can certainly continue to do better.
I love with the people I work with, and I'm not necessarily a sales trainer, but I work with a lot of leaders, and I love it when they say, "Oh, no one's asked me that before," or they really have to think about the answer. And the reason why they have to think about the answer is because if they haven't thought about the answer, they know I'm going to come back with another question. We've kind of gotten into that I'm really going to be tackling you, and it's not an interrogation, but it really is a deep level of thinking that I'm getting them into, because I'm listening to ask, the next question that's going to delve a lot deeper, uncover the kind of hidden knowledge that most people already have, but they don't go deep enough to really kind of uncover it. And that's a lot of what the questioning that I do. And it's a real aha moment for them, but also for me, because I don't know really what is underneath the surface. And I'm really curious and interested to dig that much deeper and help people to kind of uncover their hidden knowledge.
No, that's exactly what it is. It's the same for a salesperson. I say,
Yeah.
if a customer turns around and says, "Oh, that's a really good question," that's one of the highest forms of praise you can get. You've done your job well. Now make sure that you listen. Don't tap yourself on the back. Yeah, I know,
Then
because I
don't
prepared
talk
it.
over
I
them.
prepared it really well. Aren't I clever? Listen to what they're saying
Yeah.
and give them time to answer, because if it is that good, people are going to have to process. And again, because you're probably so keen, so excited about this, and they didn't understand it, I'll ask another. Now somebody's got two to deal with. They didn't get it. Oh, I'll ask another. Now there's three to deal with. And the more analytical the person is, and the better the question is, the more that's going on. So again, the listening skills that we talk about, one of the things I often say to people is look at people's eyes. Yeah. Because if their eyes are moving around, they're
Yeah.
probably searching for different bits of information.
Yeah.
So it's a very good sign. If they're looking up, they're probably trying to get access to a picture, they're looking to the sides, they're probably thinking of stuff to say, and looking down, they're probably feeling emotion. Whoa, yeah, really good one. So look, it means they're thinking, keep your mouth shut. You are doing your job. Yeah. So yeah, it's the same. You know, salespeople as a coach, I'm pretty comfortable with that as a concept, and they will become more and more so.
Yeah. 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 And I think actually people ask another question because they're uncomfortable with the space and the pause. And that says a lot about them being comfortable with themselves. And I think there's a lot of practice that, you know, I get people to do in terms of just being comfortable with space, with, you know, yourself, just listening. I do a lot of yoga and meditation, and that's really great practice, to just sitting with yourself and being comfortable with yourself. The impact that has when you're with other people, whatever their personalities and characters may be, if you're comfortable with yourself, and in sales we're meeting people all the time that have different personalities, but if you're comfortable with yourself, you don't need to jump into the space, you don't need to fill it. It's all right just to be in and sit with it. So I talk to sales leaders about that type of practice, and then they often pass it on to their sales team as well, because we are in a stressful environment, but the industry is stressful with constant kind of targets, and so I find that that is a really good practice for people to take forward.
Without a doubt, you know, that we have this kind of busy culture, and everything's got to go fast. And okay, I get that we want to be productive, we want to do a lot of stuff, but when we've got this golden time, really, isn't it? In that you're talking to somebody, you're talking to your customer, use that well. And that doesn't mean trying to cram in as much as possible, which is often the problem, because people have been trained in product selling, and so it's right, yeah, when do I get to talk about my thing? Hurry up with your answer, I want to talk about my stuff, we're running out of time. It sounds crazy, but that is the mentality sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, being comfortable in yourself, being comfortable in the space, letting people think, you will come across as a better salesperson, sales leader as well, you know, without a doubt.
Yeah. So let's talk about your book.
Let's.
Yes.
I don't need a second invitation for that.
Yeah. When are we going to get to my book? That's what you've been.
Come on, yeah. Having just said, come on, when can we talk about my stuff? There's a little irony in there.
Let me tell you why I really like your book. Because it's almost like an education in modern sales. I love that you talk about value selling and consensus sales and all of these areas, and how that actually applies to your methodology, partner intelligence, PQ, and also applying your value framework as well. So I think it's really good in the way that you kind of pull all of the research, and it's a really well researched with lots of references together, but actually kind of land it in your framework. So I really enjoyed reading it, because it reminded me of a lot of things that I know, but they're kind of a lot of things in all of different areas, and this kind of helps to pull it together. So well done.
Oh no, brilliant! No, thank you. That's really nice of you to say so. And hearing that is exactly what I was trying to achieve.
Yeah.
There is a lot of good sales practice out there, you know, and I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't want to be the kind of book saying, right, this is the new thing, because it's built on a foundation of the good solid stuff, as you've said, you know, good questioning skills, the stuff we've just talked about. That isn't necessarily new. It doesn't necessarily mean it's done well, but you know, we need to recognize that. We need to think about some of the iterations that have been and are still here, if you like, but just keep it up to date, sort of keep it modern, keep it going with the trend that we're seeing in sales, which is collaboration. Yeah, becoming more collaborative, so having to understand people better and the rest of it. And the value framework is exactly that. It's pulling the stuff together in a way that hopefully makes sense. And it's made sense for you. I'm thrilled to bits.
The reason, so that it was the partnering thing. I do key account management, and I do that through Cranford School of Management and their best practice club. And I also, through Scale Your Sales, talk about social selling and pull all of that together. So it's the customer experience, key account management, it's all focused on the customer. So I talk about partnering, but and what's really useful to see what's out there. This is very much partnering within the sales methodology and modernizing that and collaboration. I'm kind of particularly interested in the partnering with the customer, and there's elements of that as well. So I absolutely love this as a reference point. And to kind of to almost clarify my own understanding of all of these parts, because my focus very much is on the customer rather than on sales. And that's exactly what we were talking about before. It's all about me, really, and whether it's from the questioning that people do, but actually it should be all about the customer. So tell me how you think, the B2B has shifted, how sales has shifted to really focus on the customer. How does the collaboration and the partnering work really help to focus on the customer and customer success?
Yeah, I mean, you've read the book, so I can go through the whole evolution of sales back to the 50s and sort of take us on a little trip through that.
Which
So
is
I
great.
won't do. You look at it, don't you? You think, oh, that's quite funny. You go, oh, yeah, wasn't the 80s odd? It kind of stands out in that it's always been reasonably sort of thinking about the customer, apart from the 80s where it's like close, close, close. But then with consultative selling, understand need, ask better questions, come into the sort of the noughties, build more value. So yes, we can deal with the pain. A lot of people talk about pain, don't they? But actually we can pain and gain at the same time. And then just more and more so think, what are they actually trying to achieve? What are their business outcomes? I like to pull things from lots of different areas, as you've probably seen there.
Yeah.
Customer success management is a very interesting area because it talks about, after the sale's been made, we've got to really deliver on what we've said. They talk about outcomes. That's the word which is all the way through what they do. And so I think if we start getting our heads around that and thinking, yeah, the customer's buying stuff not because they like our products or us, probably don't even like us, but it's what they're getting out of it. And again, you've got to be comfortable with that as a salesperson. The whole let's be best mates type thing is very old fashioned. So really focusing in on the customer, becoming centered on what they're trying to achieve. For me, that's what collaboration is all about. What are you trying to do, and how can we work together on helping that? So co-creation would be another way that I would express that, which is even more exciting. Collaboration is kind of what we've got, you and I've got together, let's put that together. But co-creating is, well, neither of us have got it, but we could build that. Hey, now that's getting exciting. And I was chatting to someone the other day, and he said, actually, Fred, I don't think you've gone far enough in the book. Really? It's out of date already? He went, I wouldn't say that. He said, but really focusing on the customer, on the buyer, and how they buy, what they do, how they go through their processes, that has got to have, an importance in modern day selling as well. And I pushed back and said, well, yeah, that is kind of what I'm saying in there. He went, yeah, it could have been stronger. And maybe I get where he's coming from, but certainly that shift is very much about that other party. It's not me, not my products, not the value prop that my marketing department says I've got to give. How can they know? They don't know that customer on that day that I'm talking to and their particular issue, challenge, opportunity. It's the salesperson who's got to work that out by working them out and what they are trying to achieve. So the model is designed to get people thinking about that and using those partnering skills, those elements of PQ, to get better at doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it certainly does that. So what practical strategy would you offer listeners to enable them to build long-term relationships and scale their sales?
So building long-term relationships, I mean, it might sound a bit of a flippant answer, but it is look long-term. And it's not, isn't that obvious? I'm not sure that it is. And I was having a very interesting conversation with somebody the other day about how he's seeing a lot of salespeople have got a very, very short-term attitude. Yeah, it's very much about closing a sale now. It's taking an easy option. It's doing something that's going to get them a quick win. Yeah, hit their sales target, but isn't necessarily the best thing for the customer and probably their own company either. And if you're sort of selling subscriptions or something like that, and you go, I just did 1 year deal. Why? It's cheaper. It's easier. I can just get that away. You can sign that now. So it's in your, it's in your sign off ability. I mean, really, we should be talking couple of years, 3 years, 5 years, because that's better for me as the selling company and for you as well, because then you can properly build stuff in around that to reap the benefits longer term. So yeah, it's such a stupid, simple piece of advice for better long-term relationships. Think longer term. That's one of the elements of partnering skills anyway, is a future orientation. It's really kind of take that opportunity to look together going forward. How can we generate mutual benefit? How can we generate win-win? Another of the partnering skills. To really cement this stuff and make us want to work together for longer.
We've really got a dichotomy in the sales industry in that, the customers want long term in everything that they do, but the quotas are short term. Within the company, they have, their annual plan. Annual is still short term. And then we've got another level on top of that, COVID. COVID has brought everything to be shorter term, to be more agile, more flexible in what you're doing, in all of your systems and your people and what you deliver. People do not want to sign up to kind of long-term deals that, because we don't know what 2021, how that will develop into 2022. So we have got this kind of challenge, haven't we, between the long term, COVID bringing it into short term, and then the dangerous aspects of the internal quotas and targets of the short term. How do you marry all of that up?
Yeah, that's $1 million question. You're absolutely right, but I think if we start looking at things and apply slightly different terms to it, yes, we can talk about the deal, but there's no harm in also talking about the plan. So if the deal is that, yes, we will sign up to buy your products, your services for this period of time, and yes, it's short and it's something that we can terminate at any time. Yeah. But let's be looking at and assuming that we are going to be in this for the long run, and that's what our plans and what the implementation and everything is built around. So then we're going to have to practice what we preach, because hopefully we're selling on value anyway, in that you are going to get some value out of this. And that though you can walk away at any minute, why would you want to? Because we are delivering the value. So actually, I guess I'm talking about customer success again, really. This is becoming a customer success management show, isn't it? But I think that's something we can do. So we kind of tick the box, and I get the quotas, I get the targets. We tick that box because that will always be driven. But if we're going to measure that, which we always will do, we should also be measuring, but what longer term plans and implementations have we got in place with that customer? Or did we just go, yeah, sold that stuff, move on, next one? I think those two can absolutely exist together.
Yeah. Excellent. So let me tell you, I can't believe how quickly our time has gone. We're going to have
when
to
you're having fun. Time flies when you're having fun.
No, exactly. Who is your hero or shero, Fred?
I'd say it's my dad. I don't know whether that's a common answer or not, but I've kind of answered that. Well, it is anyway. Why would it not be? But I'm kind of answering it with professional hat on, because with this professional conversation. And the reason I say that is that he does keep me grounded in that, while I'm doing my research, while I'm coming up with these ideas, while I'm putting these concepts together and the latest bit of thinking or reading somebody else's and all this, and I get very excited about new stuff, new shiny things, love it. I'll be chatting to him, having a beer, and he'll say, well, there's nothing new in that then. We used to do that. So he was a builder's merchant for a long time. And when I sort of come up with something about, I think we need to be more sort of customer centered, or I was actually, in fact, there's something else the other day I was talking to him about, saying it was about being a good customer. I've got a little bit in my bonnet about this as well. So maybe that's a new book, but yeah, being a good customer, because if you're a good customer, then good salespeople can work with you and you'll get far more value out of it and all this. And he said, and I was getting very excited about it. And he just said, yeah, but that's not new. We did that. I went, what? He goes, can't you remember when you were a kid, right? So now we're talking quite a few years ago. When we went to the cricket, who did we used to take? I went, those guys. He goes, yeah, they weren't customers. They were our suppliers. We used to take them on hospitality because we worked out that would just sit better with them and we get better deals and we'd be able to work better longer term. I'm like, all right, okay. Which was great, and so he does that quite often, which is brilliant, really. And, there's a whole lot of other stuff that he's my hero for.
Our parents
the professional hat on. That's why I'd say him.
Our parents are always our parents, aren't they? And they have the ability to kind of bring you down a peg or two.
Not you. It made me giggle, and I say there's probably quite a lot of examples I could give of similar things like that.
Yeah. Well, it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you, Fred, and I've really enjoyed your book. So I've loved having you on. So thank you for being a guest. So how can listeners get hold of you?
LinkedIn is always a good one. I suspect that most people will probably be on LinkedIn who listen to this. So Fred Copestake, that's Copestake. You can email me direct at fred@brindis, that's BRINDIS.co.uk. But I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit, so that's probably going to be the best one.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast, Fred.
Brilliant. No, thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed it.